Interpersonal Distance, a tool for relational success in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Carrie Graves, Communication 616, Queen's University of Charlotte, 2017. The use of distance in the theory of interpersonal communication ethics provides the space for each person in a relationship to offer a contribution to the relationship, as opposed to one person dominating the other by forcing their will upon them, as Arnett, Fritz, and Bell in our textbook Communication Ethics Literacy speak of. The purpose of this case study was to show how the use of distance can improve interpersonal relationships. An interpersonal relationship in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice was used as an example. In Pride and Prejudice, near the end of the book, there is an ethical problem in communication between Lady Catherine de Bourgh and the main character, Miss Elizabeth Bennet. There is a rumor that Lady Catherine's very wealthy nephew, Mr. Darcy, may become engaged to Elizabeth Bennet, a woman considered to be many societal levels beneath Mr. Darcy and Lady Catherine. This paper looks at the approaches taken by characters on each side of the conflict, illuminating Lady Catherine's position with both the codes, procedures, and standards communication ethics metaphor, according to Arnett, Fritz, and Bell, page 44, and the narrative communication ethics metaphor, page 45. Elizabeth's position is illuminated by the contextual ethics metaphor, page 45. And finally, interpersonal distance is demonstrated to be the communication ethics theory that solves the ethics problem. Angered by the rumor that her nephew may become engaged to Elizabeth and afraid of its possible truth, Lady Catherine pays a visit to Elizabeth's home. Unethically, she demands that Elizabeth fit her approval, a concept described by Arnett, Fritz, and Bell, by asking her to promise unequivocally that she, Elizabeth, will not marry Mr. Darcy. I have not been used to submit to any person's whims. I have not been in the habit of brooking disappointment, Lady Catherine states in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I shall not go away till you have given the assurance I require. Elizabeth, though shaken and astonished at Lady Catherine's boldness, poor manners, and broaching of boundaries at Lizzie's own home, stands firmly upon her own soil. She refuses to give in to Lady Catherine's attempts to dominate and control her. Elizabeth observes respectable distance in this interpersonal relationship, standing firmly in her right to defend her family and her right to defend what she believes to be in her own best interest. At the same time, she maintains politeness, a theory described in Littlejohn and Foss, Theories of Human Communication. She's angry but never oversteps her boundaries into bullying or the use of insults, as Lady Catherine does. Lady Catherine is acting counterculturally to her own time by not providing appropriate distance in this relationship. In addition, she does not follow the guidelines of the day for politeness. Lady Catherine is the one who must change here. Elizabeth is acting counterculturally to her time by demonstrating great strength and self-confidence. Lady Catherine speaks at one point in the encounter, "Obstinate, headstrong girl, I am ashamed of you. Is this your gratitude for my attentions to you last spring? Is nothing due to me upon that score?" From Austen, page 384. In the beginning of their relationship, Lady Catherine is condescending, bossy, controlling and demanding, but generous. In the end, she turns to confrontation where she becomes angry, rude, cruel, uncompassionate, and domineering when she does not get her way. Elizabeth's declarations of self-protection overrun Lady Catherine's notion of reality, making her too familiar as to design to aspire to such an advantageous engagement as of that with Mr. Darcy. Lady Catherine draws the line, for Lady Catherine does not brook disappointment. The concept of overrunning reality was described by Martin Buber in 1966 and is discussed by Arnett, Fritz, and Bell on page 124. Lady Catherine overruns reality with Elizabeth by acting overly familiar and adopting Elizabeth as a sort of pet. If Lady Catherine is unable to engage dialogically with Lizzie, then observing appropriate distance would offer them a chance of having a healthy relationship as niece and aunt, and perhaps even friends. There is a spark of mutual admiration between them before the bullying incident and at the end of the novel. Lizzie is strong enough to forgive Lady Catherine and at the same time not allow her to control her. But if Lady Catherine will not both forgive Lizzie and change her controlling behavior, she will lose the opportunity to be in relationship with an intelligent and authentic young woman. In addition, she will earn the scorn of her beloved nephew, one of the few remaining family members she has. She will be reduced to keeping pets she can bully in an attempt to feel in control and feel the disappointment in her life. It is at this point that the example of Lizzie and Lady Catherine can be applied to one's own life. What would happen if Lady Catherine were to have put relationship first between herself and Elizabeth? Would she be able to observe the appropriate distance to honor and nurture the relationship? To do this, she would have to act in a countercultural nature to that of her own time. The encounter in this classic by Jane Austen was studied as an example to determine the importance of distance in interpersonal relationships and establishing healthy boundaries and protecting the good of one's own happiness. Elizabeth, in her strength, allows space for herself. According to Arnett, Fritz, and Bell in Chapter 7, in interpersonal relationships, each person must allow the other space. Lady Catherine does not allow Lizzie space, but Lizzie demands it. In the encounter in the novel, indeed, in all of Lady Catherine's encounters in the novel, she is dominant, insisting on her own way, curtly dismissing the desires of others. But Lizzie won't have it. She states on page 386 of Austen's classic, "I am only resolved to act in that manner which will, in my own opinion, constitute my happiness, without reference to you or to any person so wholly unconnected with me." This is a powerful statement of rejection of Lady Catherine's bullying. So the tool of distance, as examined in Pride and Prejudice, was offered to people who have trouble with being bullied, whether by family members, colleagues, or friends. Although there exists a plethora of psychological resources in the form of books and therapy to help people overcome ethical communication violations in their lives, the work of Jane Austen, set in 18th century England, offers a model from literature still relevant in 21st century America on how to create strong boundaries with the use of distance. Where in your life have you not employed proper distance in interpersonal relationships? And what has been the result? Have you been bullied by a coworker, parent, teacher, or friend? Have you been the bully? If clients can identify with one of the two parties in Pride and Prejudice conflict, they can apply their own life situations to the possibilities left on the table between Lizzie and Lady Catherine, and discover what it will take for them to grow in health in their interpersonal relationships by applying distance. This would require dialogue, listening, and learning, according to Arnett, Fritz, and Bell, something we can ponder whether Lady Catherine is able to do. I do believe that Elizabeth is able to do so when spoken to in a reasonable manner. How about in your life? Are you able to let go of anger and control, to listen to someone who you have a difficult time with in the hopes of building relationships? Future research on this subject could be quite fun. The pictures in this presentation come from varying films of Pride and Prejudice, including the Keira Knightley version, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies from 2016, the 1995 BBC classic Pride and Prejudice, and the references listed on this page were used in the crafting of the paper.